Utah leads the nation in dental insurance reform with real laws, real change, and real leadership. And we're beginning a 10-week podcast campaign from My Practice, My Business, celebrating Utah's groundbreaking dental insurance reforms. Each episode will break down one piece of legislation or advocacy focus, explaining how these laws strengthen practices, protect patients, and hopefully inspire other states to follow Utah's lead. Welcome to the Legislation Podcast and YouTube broadcast, episode 6. Today, the continuation of House Bill 495, no forced write-offs when ethics and insurance collide. We begin right there.
If you've ever done the right thing for your patient and then been told you have to write it off, this episode is for you.
In 2025, Utah passed one of the most important laws in modern dentistry, part of House Bill 495, and it made it illegal for insurance companies to force write-offs for services that were already rendered.
This is a law that's built on one simple truth. If the treatment was needed and provided, you deserve to be paid.
What a concept.
And remember, state law supersedes contract law, so dental insurance reps can't pull the phrase, "you signed a contract" on you. If they do, you tell them to stop trying to force you to break state law. It's that simple. We started seeing this trend after Utah passed the bundling law back in 2021. Insurance companies didn't like that we shut down their ability to manipulate payments, so they found new ways to get around it.
And they started redefining what was covered, saying services were only payable under extreme circumstances. And if those conditions weren't met, they'd label the treatment as included or not billable, forcing dentists to write it off.
The result, doctors were stuck between ethics and economics. You can either do what's clinically right and eat the cost, or you would delay care until the situation was bad enough to meet their criteria, which meant you risked your license and your patient's health.
Let's give an example like scaling and root planing, or as we call it here at My Practice, My Business, periodontal disease therapy. I hate the term scaling and root planing. It sounds so fishy or whatever. Anyways, this is a good example because some insurers decided they'd only cover it if the pocket depths were 6 millimeters or greater.
This is completely contrary to generally accepted practice standards. Every dentist and hygienist knows that once you've got those 4 millimeter pockets with bleeding and bone loss, it's already periodontitis. The proper ethical step would be scaling and root planing, not waiting until the infection gets twice as bad before insurance pays.
So what we're saying is the insurance company's rule basically told providers, don't treat the disease early, let's wait until it gets severe. And if you treat responsibly, sorry, you're going to do it for free because it didn't meet our criteria or standards.
This infuriates me. It's not just bad policy, this is dangerous. It risks the patient's health and puts the doctors in an impossible ethical situation.
This became the core of House Bill 495, and what's really interesting is we know that periodontal disease is connected to systemic health. Why would we want bacteria circulating in the bloodstream in higher amounts any worse than it already is when we can catch it early?
And I remember a phone call that was shared with us with a provider, and the provider was asking a specific insurance company, so what you're telling me is I have to either do this needed service for free or wait until it meets your criteria and risk getting sued for malpractice. And the agent on the other line said, unfortunately, ma'am, that is correct. And this is why we took action. House Bill 495 says if a service is rendered and it's medically necessary, the insurance company cannot force a write-off simply because it doesn't fit their plan limitations.
Well, in other words, if you do the work, you're owed to pay. Mm-hmm. And whether the payment comes from the insurance company or it comes from the patient, the provider's right to fair compensation is actually protected with this law.
Absolutely.
That's what I love about it.
And this law creates a really clear line between what the insurers regulate and what the doctors determine. The insurance companies do not have the authority to define generally accepted practice standards. That is the job of the dentist. They're trained, licensed professionals who understand patient care.
So now the insurance companies argue they're protecting patients from unnecessary treatment. But let's be real, that's not their role and that's not what they're doing.
No, exactly. If a patient has a concern about treatment necessity, they can take it to the Department of Occupational and Professional Licensing, DOPL, not the insurance claims processor.
What's really interesting is we told the insurance companies, no, you're not the police of me, DOPL is. And if a patient has an issue with their insurance denying proper coverage, that's when the insurance commissioner gets involved. Everyone has a lane, and insurance companies, they need to stay in theirs.
This law is, I love this law because it makes it clear. It brings accountability and balance back to the system that's tilted far too long in the favor of the insurance companies.
This is such a powerful law that I can't understand the American Dental Association's silence on this one, why it's not in their reporting on laws passed by states.
Well, this is really the frustrating part. This was a monumental win for Utah. We were the first state in the nation, and we currently are the only state in the nation to pass a law like this.
So, of course, naturally, we reached out to the American Dental Association. We thought surely they'll celebrate this one. And they'll definitely, because this helps dentists in the country nationwide who participate with dental insurance plans. It protects them when they do procedures. Insurance companies simply cannot force them to write it off, period.
So we reached out again to the American Dental Association, like you said, and nothing.
Crickets.
There was no acknowledgement, there was no mention, no feature in their legislative updates. It's almost like they didn't understand what this law meant and how big it was.
That's a really good point. Maybe they just don't understand. It's baffling. This law is right up there with our 2021 bundling law in importance. It restores clinical judgment. It stops insurers from bullying providers to do free dentistry.
I keep asking the same question. Is this because of ego? Is it because of ignorance? Is it something more? And so I'm wondering, lack of insurance reform is the number one reason that dentists are leaving the ADA.
They got to get their heads out of their ego clouds and fly the plane. You ADA leaders and state dental leadership, it's time to let effectiveness overrule ineffectiveness.
If you are listening from another state, this is really your wake-up call. Utah's not special because we got lucky. We just refuse to accept being controlled
by third-party payers. Mm-hmm. So reach out to your state dental association. Tell them you want Utah's write-off protection law in your state. And if they don't know how to start it, send them to Tracy and I. We'll walk them through it.
While we're at it, we need to emphasize generally accepted practice standards. At My Practice, My Business, we've gathered over 600 responses from licensed dentists nationwide defining real-world standards. This is by providers for providers.
And these standards should never, ever come from insurance companies. They should come from us, practicing clinicians who are licensed. We're independent, we're ethical, and we are free from corporate influence.
I feel like unless associations and states take that responsibility seriously, we're going to keep leading the way because this isn't just about Utah. It's really about protecting the profession.
I just want to emphasize again what this law states. House Bill 495 states that it prohibits an insurance company from forcing write-offs for services performed. That's what it states. It is that simple. And that is like one of the most powerful laws and solves the problem that so many dentists call us and talk to us about from other states. It's like an insurance company can't tell me that I have to write off a legitimate service. So again, x-rays, oral facial images, good note-taking, make sure that you can prove the need for treatment. And with this law passed, all of you in Utah, you live in the free state of Utah. You're able to practice ethically, legally, and morally without the hindrance of a third-party payer. You have anything
I feel like
more? I mean, this is our candid moment where you and I, we teach the law. This law is so simple. This is as short as it is. It's like there's no more to teach other than that. It's like,
you did it. You prove the need for treatment. You should get paid. That's the bottom line with it. And I start thinking about how this all progressed. It starts with the non-covered law. Insurance circumnavigates it to force write-offs. Then we in Utah passed the bundling law that forces the insurance companies to knock it off. Now we're noticing that they're saying, okay, it is covered, but it has to meet our really crazy requirements.
Standard, like 6 millimeter pockets or 50% of tooth structure missing on a tooth before they'll allow a buildup.
Well, and we all know that there are going to be times where that tooth will not meet those standards, but a buildup is needed according to your clinical judgment. And
because you excavated decay out of the buccal and you've created an undercut. And now you want to build the tooth out, but you don't have 50% of the tooth missing. You may only have 20 or 30% of the tooth missing. That is a perfect example of they're going to say it's not billable to the patient. And our law, this law, prohibits an insurance company from doing that. Either they will pay or the patient will pay. No, the dentist and the dental team does not pay for the services that are being provided to the patient.
Not
the patient's
anymore.
responsible. Yeah.
Not anymore. And that's what's really fun. Remember, you did it, you deserve to get paid. This is so fun. I love this law.
This law is powerful. Tracy and I actually were surprised that we got it passed, and we did. But you know what? It says a lot about the insurance companies around Utah here. They too are trying to be ethical in the things that they do. Is that fair to say?
I would agree with that. I think that overall in the state of Utah, I think our insurance companies do.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're meeting us halfway. And in my opinion, they're meeting us a little further than halfway because they know that we are trying to do the ethical, moral, and legal thing to do for our patients day in and day out. Thanks for joining us on this podcast. Please subscribe to our podcast and YouTube channel. And until next time, we'll see you again.